I'm stranded in the desert. This life gets so hot, I need a sip of you, God. Cause you're like water when I'm thirsty, yeah. Drink, drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink, drink. Hey. It's warm down here. It's hard to breathe. It's burning my eyes, Lord. So hard to see. I'm quite parched now. I need a savior. Come quench my thirst, Lord. Because you're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. Water for the thirsty, yeah. I drink, I drink.
It's like water for the thirsty. Truthfully, our souls parched. You will find them when you seek them with your whole heart. It's so hard to stay consistent through the word I'm reading. Cause the time is coming soon when every eye gon' see him in the clouds above. This is about a love that quenches the thirst, but the world offers is not enough. Taste and see from this fountain spring, you'll be lining up to get a drink, refreshing ink flowing out of cups. This life they gotta touch, you liberate them out of cuffs. The faith is undivided trust, created us up out of dust. He's worthy of fresh well of living water for the thirsty. Give an honor the first thing that I do when I'm waking up. It's everlasting life to all who decide to drink it up.
Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink.
If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Water for the Thirsty is a forum where we try to get to know Jesus a little bit better by spending time in His Word, because that's really the primary way you're going to get to know Him. So we created this Bible study plan that we're following that you can get at your app store, because we have it now on app store form, but we also have hard copies. If you want a copy, you can hit me up at info@waterforthethirsty.com. And essentially we read every day, and then every first and third Friday we come and talk about the stuff that we read. It's meant to kind of encourage us to keep reading, to give us accountability, to give us perspectives, to equip us to be better students, help us to make more sense of what's reading, help us to wrestle with stuff and get clarity, all that kind of good stuff. A couple of our regular cast members can't be here tonight. Please keep Shonice and her family in prayer. Their son had a small accident today, and so he had a small injury today. So keep him in prayer, and then keep Sharika in prayer because she had another commitment that came up at the last minute, and so she can't be here. But with us today is Kenrick, one of our regulars, whose responsibility it is to provide an alternative perspective than the traditional views that we may have as church people.
Okay.
Right? That's he's coming from that part of the field. You know, church people suggest this. How about this lens to which we can look at that? And then we have three guests with us today. Two of them are here for the first time. Orlando Boyd, and Bradley Trammell. They are hosts of tell me a little bit about the radio show that you do.
We just reacquired our radio spot at eLife Media. We're on every Sunday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. and our segment is called Real Talk 101, The Devil Exposed. And what we do is we go in depth, and what we try to do is we break down the word and try to make it plain, make it contemporary, make it modern, so that, you know what I'm saying, everybody can get a taste and see that the Lord is good.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the other thing that you guys do together.
Well,
Are y'all still doing the hood?
yeah, we do. But we're no longer underneath the umbrella of Hood Proud, but that does not mean that we have stopped doing the work of the Lord.
Okay.
I just choose to call it what it is, Men of God Ministries.
All right,
you know,
cool.
And actually going into a little bit of a testimony, just this week, I was able to set a start date to use a room in a recreational facility starting the first week of June, where we're going to be starting workshops and skill studies for brothers who are coming from halfway houses, who are just coming fresh from incarceration and group homes, so they can come in and get a good word. Because these brothers have at least been introduced to God, but they got more questions. You know what I'm saying? And they're a little bit bashful or ashamed to go into the church. So we're just trying to create a forum for anyone who wants to come off the street and hear a good, encouraging word to come in there and be able to do so.
So now that you say that, considering that that's kind of the design of this forum, it would be cool if we could link up and possibly
absolutely.
stream that conversation one time with them. You know, just come to you and set that same conversation up, because this forum is for people like fight like that as well. So so that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
And then I have my brother from another mother, Rondell Nelson, who's here with us today. Rondell's been following along with us, and so he's gonna just, you know,
Looking behind.
yeah, that's all right. Kenrick is behind too. I'm messing with you. So yeah, how this works is that we just dive right in. We've been reading Kenrick from the Book of Psalms.
Yo, cause the joint. So I've been reading.
I didn't say you would.
So
I just called your name.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I told him myself. But the app was acting up.
Okay.
So I mean, I didn't put the app on blast.
Yeah, that's
But
all right. You just restarted. That's all.
huh?
You just restarted.
But I did.
Uh-huh.
It just kept going and giving me like the June 1st date for like May 22nd.
Okay.
So whatever.
Were you going to like calendar, or were you just going to today?
I do today.
Or you could just swipe back and forth now.
Okay.
And then if you go in the menu, there's a thing where you could start for the days of the week. So if you want to go back to Sunday, you can just hit Sunday. And,
All right, bet.
all right, cool.
Anyway, whatever.
So we've been reading from the Book of Psalms. We've also been reading First Samuel and Second. We just started Second Samuel. But the reading plan that we're following is kind of taking us through the story of the Bible. So it kind of skips around a little bit, just as we finish the end of
So it was
First Samuel.
Chronicles too, right?
Yeah, just because we finished the end of First Samuel, it took us to the first couple of chapters of
Second Chronicle.
First Chronicles, so we get some background information in the story before we jump back into Second Samuel to continue the story on David and Saul and whatnot. So that's kind of what our reading plan does, and you'll see that if you follow along with us through. It does jump around, so that when you come across kings that were written, that lived in the time of Isaiah, we jump out of the story and then go to Isaiah, read about Isaiah, and then jump back into the story, and so that the prophets make sense in context, because you're reading them within the context of the story and understanding what was happening at the times and those kinds of things. So that's kind of where our reading plan is, and that's what we're doing. So I'm gonna ask Bradley to start us off, because you're sitting in the point seat. Not sure we could normally take.
That's a heavy seat.
Oh, I didn't say where we were. It was Psalm, 2 Samuel, and the Book of Mark.
Yes.
And the Book of Mark.
And the Book of Mark. That's where our conversation is going to come from. That's the kind of things we're going to talk about. It's going to come out of there. So Bradley, talk to me. What did you read this week? What stood out to you? What you liked? What you didn't like?
Well, of course, I started when I started my reading. I started off in Mark, because I know Mark is going to talk about the Lord.
Right.
So I figured I might as well start there. And as I read about the Lord, of course, we're in the period where he's going around doing ministry, he's doing sermons, and he's also having many conflicts with the Pharisees and the priests and the scribes, whoever. And one of the things that tickled me about the Lord is the fact that he is several times it says in Mark when he said he perceived within his spirit their reasonings amongst themselves. You know what I'm saying? And because he is the Lord, he already knew what kind of game they were trying to throw his way. He already had like a rebuttal for them, or he had like questions that they couldn't answer. Like for instance, in chapter 11 of Mark, starting at verse 27, it said, then they came again to Jerusalem, and he was walking in the temple, and the chief of priests and the scribes and the elders came unto him, and they said, by what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority to do these things? But Jesus answered and said unto them, I also will ask you one question. Then answer me, and I will tell you by what authority I do these things. So he didn't answer yet. He's like, I got a question for you first. He was like, the baptism of John, was it from of heaven or from of men? Answer me. And they reasoned amongst themselves, saying, if we say he's from heaven, he will say, then why then did you not believe him? But if we say he is from men, they said they feared the people, and all counted John to have been a prophet indeed. So they couldn't answer either way. So because they couldn't answer either way, and Jesus kind of like had a verbal checkmate, you know what I'm saying? They said, so they answered and they tried to play stupid. They said, we don't know. And then Jesus was like, all right, bet. He's like, well, neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. And I just thought that, you know, the way the Lord is, you know, how we see him portrayed, the Lord was such a thinker and such a chess player. It's like you can't get over on the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And so I just thought that was like one of the parts right there that was just like Jesus had him in verbal check. He's like, it's like you can't, even when we plot and we plan to do things against God's will and stuff like that, he ultimately knows what's going to happen because you can't check it. He already perceived in his spirit what direction they were coming from and what their motive was. Because they were trying to trap him in a lie so they could have a reason to arrest him and take him up out of there. But they couldn't catch him. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I like that about the Lord when I was reading in Mark. And then when I jumped over to Psalm, I'm going to be transparent with y'all this week. Of course, you know, through our daily walks, throughout the week, you know, we get hammered on by the devil, especially if we profess Christ openly. You know what I'm saying? Which I've done plenty of times. The devil likes to hammer on our minds. You know, and the Lord, to some degree, allows the devil to do this to test our faith, to put us in that fire, you know, get us tried like true silver and true gold. And so there was a portion of the week I was literally going through it. Like my faith was down. I was looking at mistakes that I had made during the day, mistakes that I had made earlier in the week, some stuff that I had said, and I wasn't pleased with my actions. And then I came across Psalm 103. And just to make this thing personal, in my Bible, the heading over Psalm 103 says a prayer of thanksgiving for the Lord and his mercies. It talks about the Lord's mercies. And then you gotta look about,
Hold on a second. Okay. Because that guy over there don't like to read the Psalms.
I don't do songs.
Oh, you don't do Psalms?
You feel it's like praise and worship in church now. Yeah. I just put
Well, I mean, it's that and they don't rhyme.
let me set the context of why I found this joint to be so profound. Because it says, praise for the Lord's mercies, a psalm by David. So in context and in correlation with this, we're also reading in 2 Samuel, we're reading the Chronicles about David and about his upbringing. And it just so happens in, I believe, 2 Chronicles chapter 1 through 4 talks about David finally getting anointed and being crowned king over Israel. But you got to realize at this time in Israel's history, they're in a feud where Israel and Judah are still split. They're not together. They're not all one nation. So while David is being made king in Israel, this other brother named Ishbosheth, which was a son of Saul, Abner, who was Saul's general, his main man, his dude who takes the brothers out, he made Saul's son king in Judah. So at this time, so there's a feud now between the two. So at this time, that's right, Israel, thank you for that. At this time, I'm coming to realize how wild these times were and how crazy these boys, like these soldiers and these men really were at this time, because it says that the way that Israel and Judah started beefing after those two kings were made king was as simple as this. Abner took some of his boys and went out. They went out to this pool in Gibeon, like to chill out. It was a hot day. They went out to this pool in Gibeon. So coincidentally, Joab, who is David's boy, takes a couple of his boys and they go to the same pool. And the word says that one crew sits on one side of the pool and another crew sits on the other side of the pool. And then both Abner and Joab is like, you know what? We're going to let these young boys compete and see what's up. So 12 dudes from each camp get up and they duel. But the crazy thing is, they don't do it like, I'm thinking like, if me and you going to duel, we're going to go out in the street, we're going to put hands up, we're going to go at it. They said that each dude grabbed the other person's neck and thrust the sword into the head at the same time. Now I'm like, that just don't seem like a reasonable way to fight. Plus, both of y'all died. You know what I'm saying?
They ain't come to play.
It ain't come to play.
Yeah, they come to
We're just
play.
taking
That
you
was
out.
not the friendly run.
But this is just like a wild. It's like, young, my crew's over here, your crew's over here. Let's get to it. And so then after this, then of course all the squads started beefing. But the problem was this: you see, Joab had a brother named Abishai and Asahel. And what some people may not know is that they are regarded as David's mighty men. You know what I'm saying? Which means back in the day, at that time, the physicality of these brothers was more well advanced than what we are right now.
Yep.
These brothers were able to pull off physical feats that are
Like
what
today.
we akin to the Olympics. You know what I'm saying? Like Olympic training. And they said that the word says that Asahel was as swift as a gazelle. Like he was mad quick. He was faster probably than Usain Bolt. So Joab tries to run. Make sure I'm saying no. Abner tries to run away from Asahel. While he's running, he turns back and says, "Hey, look, Slim, don't be chasing me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna light you up." And as he was like, "I think you need to turn to the right hand or the left, but you don't need to follow me no more." But Asahel didn't listen. He kept pursuing him because in his mind, it's like, "Can't nobody outrun me? I'm gonna get this dude." So what Abner did with his military mind is he planted a spear in the ground, and this brother was so fast who was chasing him that he was running up on him. When he planted his spear, it said that he ran and impaled himself to the point where the spear went through this brother. And he fell down dead to the point where everybody else who was chasing Abner had to stop and look at what happened to Asahel. This is the fastest brother alive, to my knowledge. And he's sitting here laying down dead. But then Joab and Abishai, at that point, that's when things died down, when he died. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm looking at how wild these times were and how David had these brothers who were rolling with him who was about that work clearly. And then David writes this song about praise the Lord for his mercies. And I'm going to just read like the first couple verses. This is Psalm 103. This joint like really spoke to my soul because in the first 3 verses, it's like the Lord just takes care. He's like, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgives all your iniquities, who heals all your..." Now we got to, everybody know what iniquities mean, right?
Okay.
Iniquities is when like you know you're not supposed to do that and you do it anyway.
Right.
That's a difference from a transgression or a sin. Transgression is when you just make a mistake. Sin is when you make a mistake as well. But iniquity is when you know better and you do it anyway. And so David is like, even though I had premeditated murder to take this brother's wife and kill him and impregnate her, the Lord still forgive me of that iniquity because I knew that was wrong. So he says, who forgives all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from destruction, who crowns you with loving kindness and tender mercies, who satisfies your mouth with good things so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. And he goes on to like this whole chapter just praising and giving accolades to the Lord. And I'm telling you the truth, when I was reading it at home, the Lord, in the midst of me reading it, he was like, "Say this out loud. Give me some praise right now." Because I'm reading to myself. I'm in the house by myself.
Right.
So I'm like, it makes sense to read to myself.
Right.
But the Lord was like, "Say this out loud." And as I was saying these things out loud, my spirit was being uplifted by the stuff, by the praise I was giving him. You lift him up, he raises all men, he lifts all men unto him, doesn't he?
Right.
So I'm reading this and I'm getting all the thoughts, all the doubts, and all the worries about the mistakes that I had made during the week, they all just vanish. Because I'm reading this one chapter out loud. And then I'm realizing who it's coming from and why. This is a brother that hung out in caves because Saul was trying to take his life. You know what I'm saying? And who was protecting him even though he was living like this. Even later on in his life when his own children tried to take him out. You know what I'm saying? He praises the Lord for his mercy. So David is like, actually, he's my favorite character in the entire, besides Christ. You know what I'm saying? I gotta say that. Besides Christ, David is my favorite.
You don't like Samson?
Samson's cool, but his section was a little abrupt for me. Like his story, I mean, I guess it didn't need to be that long. You know what I'm saying? Samson loved the women. He couldn't get enough of them, so God allowed his eyes to be taken out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but David they followed David from a child all the way through his kingship, all the way through his death. And then we know the Son of Man, Son of God, came from his royal line. Right. And the one question I had, I'm a rap because I know I've been talking this whole time, but the one thing I got from David when I read, like for myself, First and Second Samuel, the story of David. It was like throughout this whole thing, God is calling him. He's like, that's my man after my own heart, man after my own heart. But I'm reading about all these mistakes. How he ran from Saul, and then he went and even joined the Philistines for a little while because he was so scared of Saul. He went and joined the enemies of the nation of Israel, God's chosen people. But he's a man after my own heart. He committed premeditated murder and killed this dude to take his wife in. He's a man after my own heart. He lied and did this, that, and the third. He's a man after my. I'm like, why is he a man after your own heart? Because every time David was convicted of the wrong that he had done by prophet or by the Holy Spirit in whatever way, David did not turn to go offer worship to idols, or he realized in himself, like, Lord, you got me. You caught me in my wrong. I'm sorry. Please lead me back on the path of righteousness. He never turned away from the Lord. He had a heart that was loyal to God. And what I've come to know is like that is so valuable in the sight of the Lord. Having a heart that will return to him no matter. He knows we're going to slip and fall. He knows we're going to mess up. That's why Jesus had to die, because we are prone to do that. But if you are willing to take correction from the Lord and humble yourself and be steered back on the righteous path, God says, I can trust you. Because whatever.
So,
what's up?
So I like David too.
Okay.
Why?
Because I thought he was vicious. Like
He's a beast. He was a beast.
You see what David was doing for the
like we were in the office today and we were talking about just SEALs and just how, I was like, I should have been a SEAL, like a Navy SEAL. Like double tap to the dome. Like,
right.
That's what he did.
Yeah.
He wanted that.
He was.
No, he wanted that.
Wanted what?
David was less like a SEAL.
He wanted to.
And more like a mercenary.
Yeah. But he was thirsty for that.
Yeah.
Like, Saul was like, yo, give me what, 54 skins? 10, what?
He said 100.
100.
David brought him 200.
He brought him 4 skins, dog.
He's a wild boy.
4 skins.
Yeah.
What? He said, I'll get you more.
Yeah.
The dude, like, he was like, at the off break, he wanted to kill Nabal.
Yes.
Like, just
for disrespect.
For disrespect. Like, yo, we took care of your sheep and goats and all this stuff, and like, you can't. And I'm thinking, like, no, like, well, I didn't tell you I was gonna give them to you. Like, that was you decided to do it. I didn't. We had no contract. We had no deal. Like, how you gonna get upset? When he got upset, it didn't take his dog.
Yeah.
So that's why you like him.
I like him for that.
You like that he was raiding people and killing them and pulling down the villages and everything.
Yeah, because he can do that. And going back to what Brad said is like, which I always battle against, is the fact that he knowingly did a bunch of dirt. He knowingly did it.
Yes.
But it was like,
I would even say it's more. I say it's more than dirt.
You said?
I would say it's more than dirt.
Well, yeah, but he
was burning whole villages to the ground.
Is returning to God and the ability to return to God and give Him praise, like, is that enough? Because he knowingly did. Like, before he was very purposeful in going and taking out. Like, he plotted against Bathsheba.
Right.
He plotted on her.
Right.
And then figured out how he was going to keep the plot going. Like, it took a lot of work.
Right.
Right?
He was king.
And he was king, so he had the power to try to cover it up and try to do everything. And that's God's dude?
Why you think?
What does that tell you about God?
Don't tell me about Trump. What I'm saying is,
but did God choose Trump or did God choose David?
Well, let's stay on David. Okay.
That
was
So go ahead, ask your question.
I was saying,
or you asked a question.
No, I was just asking, what does that tell you about God?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a question. It's not rhetorical.
I don't know.
My question is
because. Well, I don't know if it necessarily tells me anything about God. I think it tells me, the question is what it tells me regarding David. Because there are a lot of people that did dirt. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that knowingly did stuff.
I was talking
what was separate
the way God related to, handled, and spoke about David. Mm-hmm. In spite of all of these things, what does that tell you about God? Does it tell you anything about God?
I don't know.
Orlando, what does it tell you about God?
I mean, I'm my mind's all over the place for real right now. I'm thinking about the fact that the first body David caught was because Goliath was, you know what I'm saying, playing with God. He was carrying the children of Israel and they were scared. So David was like, oh man, who's this dude?
Yeah.
He was uncircumcised Philistine, you know what I'm saying, talking about God. So you ain't just gonna talk about my God like that. So he dogged him. And I think it was easy.
Bloodthirsty.
I think he was like, man, I can do this. You know what I'm saying? I can do this and not just get away with it, but I can do it and God is going to respect me for it. He's going to honor me for getting these bodies, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, what does that tell me about God? God knows us better than we know ourselves. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he'll use...
I can dig that.
He'll use... you may not think you have it in you to chop somebody's head off until God tells you, Jared, chop that little head off.
That's what I'm talking about.
And if you connected with God, I mean, we've had this conversation. There's nothing new under the sun. Who's to say a decree may not go forward for God's remnant to go over there and crush ISIS? You know what I'm saying? Get them out the way. America playing with them. You know what I'm saying? They killing Christians. God always sent somebody to his people. You know what I'm saying? And who knows? I mean, we're going to do greater things than Jesus did. So I ain't going to say no fire going to come down from heaven, you know, but who knows? I don't know. I mean, I know God know me better than I know me.
I guess what I was getting at is and it was something that Bradley hinted to, is what qualifies someone to be, you know, chosen by God to do a work or to be considered a man after his own heart.
Willing.
Well, that's my thing. Like,
what qualifies or disqualifies?
That's why I asked it a different way. Like, what qualified David? Because what happened is, you can go through and there are dudes that didn't do what David did.
Right.
And they were not men after God's own heart. So what separated David from everybody else to where God can look past all of that dirt?
God. He spent time when he was out there with the sheep.
The question is, who is David? That is the question.
What do you mean?
Who is David? In other words, where did he get this courage, this faith, this attitude? Where you got that from?
Why do you think that's a question?
Huh?
Why do you think that's a question?
Because that formed the person he is. So where did he get it from? It had to originate from somewhere.
I think
you understand what I'm saying? Starting with the lion that he killed, quote unquote, the bear, where he tells Saul that.
Why did he kill him?
Moses wasn't God.
He didn't kill him because he was a hunter.
No.
He killed him because they was messing with his sheep.
It was messing with the sheep. Right. That is a courageous thing. You ever went to the zoo and see a lion?
Man, he had to do what he had to do.
You know what I mean? And he said he hold it by his beard.
He said he took it out of his mouth too. He said he took a lamb out of his mouth.
And a bear? You know it's a bear? I mean, it's serious stuff here, On a bear stand up is about 10 feet.
We can have a conversation. I mean, we can walk away and we can get more sheep.
Right, exactly.
He might have been educated to the fact that God gave dominion over animals to man. He might have been of a mind that I don't need to be scared of this animal because if need be, you knew the story of Daniel, God can deliver this. See, if he was rocking with the Lord like I know he was, if I'm out in the middle of nowhere with 100 sheep, 99, one of them rolled out, and I'm of a mind I need to go find that sheep. You know what I'm saying? Like the little parables, you know what I'm saying? They give us how Jesus do. You leave the 99 to go find the one. If he felt that strongly about these animals, you know what I'm saying? On the strength of God, I mean, he probably didn't care if it wasn't for the fact that that's how God carries things. And he was connected with God. He was a kid at the time. You know what I'm saying? As he got older, life happened.
Because remember,
I can relate to
remember all these things that he did. He wasn't a star at this point. He was a nobody. He at this point he wasn't king yet.
But that speaks to that's.
You understand what I'm saying? He doing this on his own accord, in his in his own world. Right? He killing lion and tearing down bear, and still when he went into the army, his brother and them treating him like their little brother.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, but your little brother killed a lion and a bear, and you still, you know what I mean?
Well, they were jealous of him too.
Yeah, like they don't have, you'll have a respect for a person like that, right?
How much does the fact that God was eyeing David for the role of king factor into the conversation? What does David's selection as king impact the conversation that we're having in terms of what God was looking for and why he could say these things about David?
I know that David's character and even his appearance said he was a ruddy appearance, and he was like the runt of the litter, pretty much. He was the opposite of everything the nation of Israel chose in Saul. Saul was tall, he was handsome, he was valiant, he looked like a leader.
But that's what God chose.
No, that's what the people chose.
No, that
The people chose Saul.
God chose Saul.
Yeah,
God chose Saul.
Samuel told. Samuel said.
That's one of my
But he did not want the nation of Israel to have a king.
Yes,
he wanted them to be sovereign.
But when they asked for a king, God made the pick.
Made the pick for Saul.
Yeah, but how come?
Which is why that's one of the things I want to
How
mention on
come
this.
God didn't give Saul some of the graces that he gave to David?
And that's where I'm
That's my point.
I think it's harsh with Saul.
I think it's more has to do with what's the difference in David? Because he didn't get half the chances.
No.
Saul. Like nobody got half the chances that David got.
You know, it was like Saul made up his Saul went out the battle.
Moses wasn't guy after God's own heart. Abraham wasn't. I mean, there's some big time dudes that did some great things that did not do the dirt that David did, and David was still that guy. And the only thing I can think of is what Brad said is that he didn't worship. Like he returned, even though he did dirt, he returned to God. I'll do dirt.
I'd say that's part of it.
Okay,
but it's part of it because it's a result of something else. So let's walk through some scripture and I'll show you why something. Because I never noticed it before. I'm not enough to track it. But I saw something this week as I was reading. So let's try and follow it. First Samuel chapter chapter 12.
1 Samuel 12.
Yeah, 1 Samuel chapter 12. Now, this, for those of you who have not been here before, my dad gave the cast members this book called How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth. And I personally think it's essential reading for anybody who wants to be a faithful follower of Christ, because it helps to make this make sense, and it gives you valuable insights. It doesn't not necessarily teach you anything doctrinal, but it teaches you how to handle this so that this makes sense to you, that you understand what you're reading, what the books are, what their intent is, and the different types of things that are happening in the book. One of the things it points out that in the Old Testament, one of the literary styles in the Old Testament is called narratives, which is like 1 Samuel was a narrative where they're telling you a story. And usually in a narrative, the author has a story that he's trying to tell. And in the narrative of the Bible, God is the main character and all the other characters are secondary characters to God. So it's really a story of God being the main character, and he's flowing along. The other thing that they mention is that in the telling of the story of the narrative, the dialogue is a very important contributing factor to the perspective of the person telling the story, and often tells significant parts of the story through the dialogue. It's like when you're watching a movie and they do a scene where the two characters are talking, but their conversation is telling you the plot of the story, where they don't have to actually tell you the plot or play a scene, because the dialogue gives you information about what's happening, which is why when you're watching with your wife, she can't talk to you because she's distracted from the movie and you miss something important. Right.
Wow, so that's really personal.
I was talking for you. So I wanted to start with a point that comes up in the end of chapter 12, verse 20. Granted, this is not Saul yet. But this is the people who recognize that they've done wrong in asking for the king, and they start crying out.
I remember this.
And so Samuel says to them, "Do not be afraid. You've done all this evil, yet do not turn away from the Lord, but serve him with all your heart." Essentially, he's saying, yeah, you didn't do right, but continue. The kind of thing that you talked about with David. Now you ask, why did the author go on to include this line in the story? He then goes on to the next part of the story. Chapter 13 is where Samuel rebukes Saul, is what my heading has. And I'm going to read this part from you starting from verse 7. Chapter 13, verse 7. Some Hebrews even crossed to the Jordan from the land of Gad and Gilgal. Saul remained at Gilgal, and all the troops with him were quaking with fear. He waited 7 days, the time set by Samuel, but Samuel didn't come to Gilgal, and the men began to scatter. So he said, "Bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offering," and Saul offered up the burnt offering. Just as he finished making the offering, Samuel arrived, and Saul went out to greet him. Now he had gotten instructions on what to do. Let me double back. Another reason why I saw it. I bought a new Bible, Kenrick.
Okay.
And in my new Bible, they have like intros to the books, and they give you insights about the book to give you context about it. And one of the things that they mentioned that I never noticed before was that when the people asked for a king, they didn't just ask for a king; they wanted a king like the other nations. And that was a significant line. And when I read it, I thought they just wanted a king because the other nations had kings. They wanted a king that was like the other kings. The way that the other kings ruled was that they were autonomous. The kings made the decision. The kings had the final say, and there was nobody ruling the king. The way God wanted to set up the children of Israel, he wanted to be the king. And anybody who was representing him was taking orders from him.
Right.
They didn't want God to be their king. They wanted somebody else to be their king to develop and set the orders. So when Samuel comes in the chapter before and is giving instructions about how Saul is to rule, he's telling him he's supposed to rule under the guidance of God. So God is still giving them the king that they asked for, but he still remains the king.
Gotcha.
If you go back to Deuteronomy, when Moses was telling the people, when you go into the land and you ask for a king, here's how he's going to rule, or here's how he should rule, it was still with the king subordinate to God.
Okay.
So with that background, let's read these verses again. Saul encounters a situation where he was about to fight the Philistines and his troops start to become afraid. Samuel told him, wait, but Samuel is not here and the men are leaving. He's now feeling pressure as a king to do something. So he takes matters into his own hands.
Sacrifice himself.
Right? So he does that, and he doesn't ask God. He just, of his own volition, because he's a king.
Yeah.
So he's now the authority. So what have you done? Samuel asked, verse 11. When I saw the men were scattering, and he didn't come at the set time that the Philistines were assembling, I thought, now the Philistines must come down with me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the Lord's favor. So I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering. Now I also want to take you back to the story of Moses, right? When Moses strikes the rock, he utters the words, must we bring water out of this rock? So he kind of elevates himself to the status of God. If you follow the story after Moses gets elevated. Even despite that, Moses gets elevated in status as this figure that's almost worshipped and revered. If he hadn't gotten humbled, he would have been, Moses led us out of the children of Israel. Moses this, Moses that. So here you have Saul starting to show signs that he's not allowing God to lead. He's starting to take control of this situation. Alright? So Samuel tell him, you've done a foolish thing, you've not kept the command of the Lord. If you did, he would have established a kingdom, but now your kingdom will not endure. He's sought a man after his own heart, and then appointed him ruler because you haven't kept his commands. So the story kind of carries on, and he goes into the next story. So in the next story, chapter 14, there's another battle. So you have to also think that the author is he's giving you snippets to make points, and he's using these stories to give illustrations. Again, I didn't notice it before this week. So here's another story, another battle with Jonathan and whatnot. So he's giving you all the context of the story. Jonathan goes up on the hill, he's attacking the people, there's commerce in the camp. Saul didn't know he was over there. Saul was asking who's over there, and then Saul is presented with the situation starting at verse 15. So 1 Samuel chapter 14 and verse 15, right? The panic struck the whole army, those in the camp and the field and those in the outpost. The raiding parties and the ground shook. It was a panic set by God. Saul's lookouts at Gibeah and Benjamin saw the army melting in all directions. And then another situation is occurring. Then Saul said to the men who were with him, muster the forces to see who has left us. When they did, they saw it was Jonathan and his armor bearer were not there. Saul said to Ahijah, the priest who was with them, bring the ark of God. At that time it was with the Israelites. So he's looking to inquire of God to see what's to do. But the situation worsens. While Saul is talking to the priest, the tumult in the Philistine camp increased more and more. So Saul said to the priest, don't bother to talk to God. I got this. Right? Then Saul and his men went into battle. The next story that comes up in the Bible The next story that comes up is same chapter, verse 36. Now he does actually ask God in this story, let's go down and pursue the Philistines by night and plunder them till dawn, Saul says, and let's not leave one of them alive. Do whatever seems best to you, they reply. But the priest said, let us inquire of God. He had already made a decision on what we should do. The priest is the one reminding him, you should probably ask God first. But because it was a secondary thought, you know, I don't know why God didn't answer him. I'm guessing now. This is me guessing. He didn't. It was a secondary thought. It was a second thought. God didn't answer him. And then we know the famous story about Agag. God gave him instructions. And again, if you listen to Saul's response, the men thought, the situation was such that these were what's the word? Extenuating circumstances that forced me to make a decision on your behalf. And since I'm the king, I have the authority to do that. I'm not going to do what you say. I'm going to do part of what you say, because the way the circumstances right now, doing that is not necessarily the best thing. This might actually be better. Once they introduce David into the story, you start noticing that everything David does, he starts asking the Lord, should I go up? Should I stay? Should I do this? Should I do that? David has a healthy respect for God, and he has a healthy respect for not allowing God, not taking on matters on his own behalf and in his own defense, and allowing God to take care of him. Saul was fighting him. He didn't kill Saul, but he did defend somebody else. The one time,
and the reason why he didn't kill Saul wasn't because of Saul.
No, it was because of the Lord.
Yeah.
So he had this healthy respect for the Lord. Anything the Lord wanted from him, he was positioned to be willing to do. And he was willing to allow God to give him direction. And then you notice that the story, the author starts to demonstrate this point about David. And I started tracking it.
Coincidentally, what you're talking about the things you're noticing about Saul, how he's taking stuff in his own hands, I noticed the same thing with David on the opposite effect when he became king. Because there was one time after he became king that the enemies of Saul feared him, and they was like, we gotta mass up and take him out, because we remember the song, Saul killed thousands, David is saying his tens of thousands. So a group of nations formed a coalition to go up against David. But the first thing David did before going out to battle is he asked the Lord, shall I go out? And he asked the Lord, and the Lord said, you shall. And even though that army was larger than David's, when the Lord told him he can go out, he defeated him. Then not only that, when he beat them the first time, they fell back, recuperated, and then came at him again. And David went back to the Lord and said, shall I go out again? And the Lord was like, do not go the way you went before, but hide. I think it was some bushes or some bramble bushes, like a nook, pretty much. And he was like, hide there. And then when the army passes, come up behind them and flank them. So the Lord gave David a battle tactic to take out the army again. And on the second time, when he came around and flanked them, he wiped them out completely. And it was not only a great victory that echoed into the surround, because he beat a coalition of nations, so that word spread through those nations and even out farther. But David gave the glory to the Lord because of that. And that's the difference. Like you said, David, he was like, we're not making a move until God says we can do it. But just like you said, David had that bloodthirsty hunger. David wanted to go out there and get that wreck. You know what I'm saying? Which is the reason why when Bathsheba came, and the story starts out when kings were at war, David was at home. You know what I'm saying? So he wasn't doing what God knew he would be loving to do. And that's how he messed up. Yeah. But David did want that work. But the thing, like you said, why was David selected? God gives each man his own qualities and characteristics. There's some things that every man in this room has an affinity for, more so than myself. But God knows that specifically about each person. But just like you said, he gives you the opportunity and the chance to do his will. And that's what he saw in David. David had a humble heart. Even though he wanted that right, because he wasn't.
Does it give you a pass?
What?
I don't think it gives you a pass.
Does it give him a pass?
Give him a pass on what?
Because sin is sin.
Because he knows David's heart.
Right.
Did God give David a pass?
No.
Because he knows that David's coming back.
I don't think
David's son slept with his wives in broad daylight, and God told him that.
Yeah.
His son died. The other son kicked him out of the thing, and he was running for his life from his own son. He had
trouble in his house for the rest of his life.
Yeah. You know, so no, he did not get a pass. And then when he did the census,
Oh yeah, the census
Yeah.
representative.
He God called him up and said, you know, I have to beat you. I have to beat you.
Yeah.
So you want it with the belt or you want it with the whip? One pick and switch.
I like
The
that.
Bathsheba
I like that.
was the big one. That's the reason why his son. He said, "I'm gonna do." Like
She
that
was
was the
even bigger
one.
because it was his man's though.
That's what I'm saying. But that was.
Uriah
That's where
was his
everything
boy.
else came.
Elijah was one of the mighty men.
That's where everything came from. though.
Yeah.
Like the fact that your son's gonna do it and is gonna do it openly. The fact that you're gonna lose your son. Like all that came from Bathsheba. Like all the other stuff.
The census didn't.
Well, the census. Those are two.
Right.
The reason why I still say it's part of God's plan is because Solomon came from that union.
Yeah.
Solomon came from Bathsheba, and still through that line, Christ is still to come. So even with those trials and tribulations of David that we look at, like, how in the world could God kick it with this person? His plan is so ultimate, and his ways are so far above our ways that he can take a dude like David and still have that worked out for his glory and honor in the end. Because those nations originally, Moses told them jokers before he perished on the mountain, well, y'all go in there, wipe them all out. Because if you don't do that, you're going to intermarry with them, you're going to learn about their customs and their ways of heathenism, you're going to adopt it, and then you're going to go further from me and play the harlot, which is exactly what happened. David was wiping out nations that should have been taken out when the children of Israel even first got into Canaan. So he might have been using him and his mighty men just to do the work that he had already set for Israel to do when they first got in there, but it just never got done because the devil was working against it.
I want to make the argument that part of the reason why Saul didn't get the pass Saul didn't get a pass, Saul appears not to get a pass, is because of the role of king. You find that when people are in leadership positions and representing God, or have to speak with the authority on behalf of God or chosen by God, he's a little bit firmer in his grip in dealing with them than he is. And because Saul was king, that was refusing to simply do what he says. I hadn't adopted that posture and was taking the posture of, well, I know you said that, but this is what I'm encountering right now, so I'm going to disregard you to do this because my circumstances dictate it. I can't use that dude. I can't use that dude.
I agree with that because
David, on the other hand, even though he was doing mess,
it was when he was.
My question is this: why, if God is all knowing, why he just didn't choose David from day one?
God, that's too easy.
It's an example
Because it makes his chapter smaller.
He was already picked.
he did pick from day one because since when Jacob was blessing the sons, Judah was prophesied to be the royal, the scepter,
the royal line, right?
The royal line that was prophesied from a long time.
Right.
But what you get with God is always looking at a bigger picture, and the part of it is God is doing it for His own purposes.
His own purpose.
I just wanted to find out that because soon as Saul mess up, he just get, cast aside and okay, David.
But why not? I mean, why not look at it like God knew Saul was going to do that? The people wanted a king. Yeah, God picked him, but the people wanted a king. God wanted to be their king. He was like, I'm going to give you somebody I know ain't going to be able to do the job. So you can look to me, but the people still didn't look to him. He already had David in the pocket anyway. He knew David was in the cut.
But he
You know
chose.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He knew David was there. He watched him grow. I mean, he the one that, he had already started bodying people a long time ago.
I do believe personally that God gives each person a choice, and here's why. There's another character that always brings me back to this. The guy who God took Jeroboam. Jeroboam. God chose Jeroboam because Solomon was acting the fool.
Yeah, that's right. That's when it got split, and the kingdom got split up, and he was like, here, you take Judah and the other 11, they're going to be Israel. That's right.
But the God chose Jeroboam because he knew he was going to...
He went wild, yeah.
Right?
Right.
He did what Saul did. The circumstance was he was afraid that the people weren't going to come back to him because the temple was down in Judah.
Right.
Or the sanctuary was in Judah. And so he was afraid that people wouldn't come, and so his circumstances led him to do something that he thought was expedient in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm saying that to say, in the book of Samuel, when God is choosing David, he tells Samuel not to look at the brothers because of their looks, because I'm looking at the heart.
The heart, right.
So
If he did that with David, you would assume that he did that
I'm gonna push back on that one.
with
And-
Saul.
Yeah. So, but my thing is, the only characteristics they gave of Saul were
His height.
It's external.
Were
features.
external.
Yeah.
But God didn't pick on externals.
Huh?
Because he told Samuel he doesn't pick on externals.
And he picked on externals. The only description they gave of Saul in this joint was externals.
Right.
He was handsome. He was tall, head and shoulders above
But
everybody.
it also says the
Biggest-
spirit came on him and he changed.
Was that again?
It also the spirit came on him and he changed.
That's why he prophesied.
When?
After
God chose him.
Correct.
So he chose him based upon the looks and the externals.
But God can work with any
say- I wouldn't say totally.
I'm just saying.
I wouldn't say
The
totally.
Bible said that
The Bible says that
he
God
picked up
doesn't
on
look.
externals, and then he goes to David, and he was like, and then he tells Samuel, like, yo, I don't pick on externals. Samuel was like, yo, that's what you just did.
That's what Samuel is.
I believe the disparity, the reason why Saul was allowed to rule, and then came David was the same reason. For the simple matter, be careful what you ask for. He wanted to show the lesson between both. Like you said, I believe God knew the intentions.
So it was a setup.
He knew his heart. He knew his heart, but he played his position and he gave him a choice. To say it's a setup meaning he was doomed to fail. I mean,
I don't believe that is.
I don't believe that either. Like Judas had a chance.
He knew his
to
heart.
walk-
He knew Pharaoh's heart, right?
Judas had a chance.
We're going to keep going back to it.
Why you say that?
God hardened Pharaoh's heart.
If you prophesy something
You know what I'm
before
saying?
his own prophets, just like years before.
Everything you
Yeah, Pharaoh didn't have a choice.
So
And they say
he
not
could have
one
made a choice, but God knew he was going to choose against him.
So that's my thing. He knew Saul's heart. He knew this dude wasn't going to be that guy.
He knew David was going
He
to
knew if he put
He just wasn't gonna come
He
for
knew
Saul.
he knew if Samuel twisted his ankle on the way, it took him a little longer to get there, that Saul was going to go and do what he said he was going to do. He knows who you are.
So
He knows David was going to chase all the tail in Israel and outside of it. He knew David was going to do it.
a lady once said to me in Sabbath school, she was telling me an experience about a kid who was in her class, and she said to the kid, "You're gonna end up in jail one day."
Oh, good. That's kind of
different.
prediction.
How is that different? If you
She's not God. She doesn't know. She's not omnipotent and omnipresent, omniscient. Like, she's none of those things.
right.
She's a lady.
the kid does end up in jail. Is it because she knew? Is it because she prophesied
Spoke
it?
that joint into the existence.
Or because based on the tendencies of the kid, she knew that he's going to make choices. He would make choices that would land him in jail.
Yeah,
So he didn't end up in jail because of her.
it's different.
No, it's not.
No, it's a great
Not really.
parable.
Not
It's a great
really.
parable, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It's not the same.
Yeah. Everybody has a choice, and
I agree.
and to your point about Judas,
Right.
the Bible does say
He felt bad,
this
though.
thing has to happen, but
Yes.
woe to the one who makes a choice to happen. If Judas had chosen to not do the thing, somebody else would have done it. It didn't have to be Judas.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say, Judas and Peter were about the same. The difference was their response, like David and Saul. Their response to
And Peter like David, just
Peter-
loved God. Like
Yeah.
he was that guy. Like
That denying 3 times was the incident where he got humbled, and then from there, he went on to do the great ministries to Israel. So he
Judas
was-
could have been
And Judas could have been.
Judas
Yeah,
did
yeah.
the same thing.
He had essentially the same opportunity.
Trinity. Yes.
But his thought process, even not to get into him, but his
wow.
thought process thinking that, even if he did this, the Lord would have some miraculous work to free himself. It was kind of like this was his initiator to kick him into the ideal, which everybody thought the Messiah was anyway, to free them from Roman oppression at the time.
So
Kendrick, I just got some people who were chiming in the chat room.
Okay.
Andre says 2 things I believe is paramount with David's story. The anointing David had never left when or after he messed up. The next thing is David didn't just repent but was absolutely remorseful. Saul didn't do both when he screwed up. In fact, Saul justified.
Yeah, Saul
what he
did justify.
Anderson says, can God make mistakes? It seems as if we are trying to understand the divine based on human reasoning. He knows our hearts also, but it is our choice that leads us either closer or further from God. all these men had a choice. If you're still watching as well, feel free to take advantage of the chat room and join the conversation. Don't just listen to us. Share your thoughts. Kenrick, you were gonna say?
No, I was gonna say when you're equating, as we were talking, I'm thinking Saul and Judas, and they were almost like plotting. They were plotting to figure out how to advance. So Saul was trying to, he would take things, I'm fighting the Philistines. I'm waiting for this. All right, now I got to figure this out, right? On his own. Judas, the same way. Judas, at the end of the day, wasn't wrong in like what he was thinking. What he was thinking was similar to everybody else. Like, he was thinking about the fact that this was going to be a kingdom that Christ is setting up.
Right.
So he's no different than Matthew, than
James,
John, their mother, like everybody. They're thinking that we about to this Christ is here to be king. Mm-hmm. So he's just like, all right, let me figure out a different way to get a win. Because the kingdom needs money.
But he took it into his own hands to spur it exactly, which is the same thing as Saul did,
as opposed to Peter and David, who both were just like, we're just gonna let it, we're gonna look at God.
Right.
We're gonna obey. We're gonna do that. I'm not gonna deny you, Lord. I love you, Lord. And the same mentality David had. They both had their issues.
Right.
Hot tempers, bloodthirsty. Peter didn't love women. He was married, but.
And even stuff, I was going to bring this up before. It's like, even when David had the intention to build the temple, he was like, nah, not you, Slim. Your son gonna do it. You got
so that was a punishment.
Yeah. That didn't make sense to me till this reading it. It was because through one of our in-person sessions, Chris Gibbons came and painted a picture of a character in the Judges called Jephthah, and kind of equated him to Nino Brown. No, because he was like that. He was the one running the corner, running the block where he was, running around with thugs and men. So Jephthah was like a Nino Brown who got chosen to do him. And
was there a sermon he made on Nino Brown?
Let me ask you a question, man.
1 second. I'm gonna take your question. I was saying that to say that when I read about what he was doing when he was living in the Philistine area, where he was going and raiding
he was bloodthirsty, man.
Raiding towns, killing everybody, taking the stuff. That was his living. That's what he did for a living.
But the thing, the reasons why though, the reason they gave was he was killing everybody so no one would tell.
Yes.
That's it. I just can't leave anybody because they can't tell that I was there, so that Saul can't.
But even then, it's like that pivotal moment. It was like, all right, Philistines about to go to war with Israel. The king, was it Michmash? I think that was
Achish.
Achish, that's right. Achish was the king of the Philistines. He was like, look, man, you raiding, bringing me all this spoil. You my dude, you gotta come. But the princes of the Philistines was like, nah, we still remember. Saul killed thousands, David killed tens of thousands. He might go out there, see somebody he know and turn on us. He can't come. So the Philistines don't bang with him. Israel don't bang with him. He goes back home in his village where he was staying. That joint got raided. Yeah. And his men is leaving because they blown because their wives and their children, everybody got taken. So now he's in the spot. It's like, man, don't nobody bang with me. What did he do? He didn't offer a sacrifice himself. He went straight to the Lord. He was like, look, I messed up. What would you have me do? Shall I go back and retrieve all that they just raided from us? And the Lord still answered him and kicked it with him and gave him direction.
That's it right there. Right at the moment, he consulted God.
Yeah.
And the fact that God could overlook the fact that he was just killing people for fun.
Oh, man.
That's what I'm saying. People for fun. Dude gets away with murder.
That goes back to his question. What does that say about God? What does that say about God?
Orlando, you were asking a question.
No, I'm about to go out.
I mean, what's your Bible in 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 7? What does your Bible say?
Chapter 10, verse 7?
Verse 7. Once these signs are fulfilled, do whatever your hand finds to do, for God is with you.
Say it again.
Once these signs are fulfilled, do whatever your hand finds to do, for God is with you.
Mine says, and let it be when these signs are coming to thee, that thou do as occasion serve thee, for God is with thee. Thou do as occasion serve thee. Now, I mean, if I'm being made a king, and you telling me I can basically do what I want to do because God is with me. How can I go wrong?
Verse 7.
If the man of God is telling me once these things take place, now I don't know if they had taken place up to that when he jumped the gun with the sacrifice and didn't wait for Samuel, but I mean he's being told basically, do you? God is with you. So how can he be knocked?
What are the signs? He says.
I mean, I didn't read that far. I'm just asking the question. I mean,
He said the Spirit of the Lord will come.
He's going to meet some people and
you'll
that's even
prophesy
more.
with
But what occasion? I would think that means whatever the situation is, thou do as the occasion serves thee. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever situation you find yourself in, you do how you feel because God is with
But
you.
that was context specific
for when
that happens. Whatever happened, once you experience these things and you know for sure that God has chosen you, that these signs confirm that.
So did the Spirit of the Lord ever come upon Saul?
Yes, it did.
So why couldn't he make his own decisions if God was with him?
Because Saul,
Once saved, always saved.
As 6 say, and the Spirit of the Lord will come upon thee, and thou shalt prophesy with them, and shall be turned into another man. So if that happened, and he's told in verse 7, once these things take place, basically do what you want because God is with you. I mean, I'm not saying go do whatever you want to do, but as the king, I'm assuming he's saying, make the right, whatever decision you make is going to be the right one.
But it goes back to the thing that we keep talking about. You can see over the course of Saul's life and his decisions, like he's not consulting God on a regular basis.
Nah.
And so that's one of the parts of it. Like just because, like I said, once saved, always. Like once you get baptized or once you accept Christ as your savior, like you're not good.
What do we know about Saul prior to this situation where he leaves to go look for his father's donkeys?
not much.
We don't know
Not much.
nothing.
So we don't know what type of dude he was. And who's to say this changed with him taking it upon himself to make decisions for, not waiting on the priest like everybody else used to do. Maybe, since God is with me, I'm going to make this decision as a man of God. He put me in this position. Let me go ahead and make the decision.
The challenge was that he got specific instructions.
That's exactly
Specific
what I'm saying.
instructions from
Samuel.
The couple of the instances where it was problematic was because he got specific instructions. Samuel said, "Wait till I come."
Yep. From the man, the same man who gave him direction is the one who told
Now,
him.
let me ask you a question. I'm thinking about this now. I'm just thinking about, so Samuel would tell him, Samuel straight up man of God, you know what I'm saying? Samuel would tell him, look, wait for me.
Yeah.
He didn't wait. He was also told, once the Spirit of God come upon you, do what you want to do because God is with you. You think Samuel might have just been mad because Saul didn't wait for him?
Well, you can tell by Saul's response.
Yeah, you can tell from Saul's response and Saul's rationale for doing it.
What was his rationale?
No, what had happened was.
What happened was he said the people started panicking.
Like I had to keep it here.
Something.
I can't fight when
They told him to do whatever.
Yeah, but
He got tested. The fire got put to his behind, and he jumped the gun. That's pretty much what it is. Oh snap! My boys is leaving me. Samuel ain't here yet.
So I tell him man do whatever he want to.
But the next line, even there, if you read verse 8,
So I'm going to go through the whole thing.
So what happens is, Samuel anoints him, verse 1. And from verse 2, when you leave here today, these things are about to happen. So he gives him a things, and then he says, the Spirit of the Lord will come upon you.
Right.
When you come there, do what the hand finds to do.
Right.
Meaning, take care of the business that's there. But in the very next breath, he says, go down to Gilgal ahead of me. I will surely come and I will sacrifice the burnt offering. But you must wait 7 days until I come and tell you what you are to do. So it's not just do what you have to do, but it's also these instructions
Also
came
with
in the same thing. Wait till I get there and tell you what's the next step.
This is, and it goes back to what you're saying, as he was supposed to be the mouthpiece and pretty much the body piece for God, which is the reason why God chose him. He's like, the original plan was not to have a king. God was going to be king. Since y'all want a king, I'm going to pick this dude, give him the opportunity to be my instrument, and my instrument is going to come through my man, my prophet, who's going to come straight to him. The second he starts not listening to what I'm giving my man, the prophet, to do, he's going to start, like, I'm going to test him. Because it's like, I'm going to give you this direction, and I'm going to allow you to be tested. Once you're tested, I'm going to see the decision that you make the choice that you make, and I'm allowed a little bit of fire to come up under your behind and see what you do. Your boys gonna start leaving, morale's gonna start going down, the enemy's gonna start amassing up in front of you. What are you gonna do? You still gonna wait for me, or are you gonna take matters into your own hands? Saul made the decision to do that, just like you said, progressive decisions.
Exactly, because Saul didn't start off like that, you know.
No,
He didn't.
He started off kind of.
Nervous.
Remember, he went and hide, you know, when Samuel.
That's right.
had
He
a
did hide.
conversation with
That's
him.
right. He hid. That's right.
Samuel had a conversation with him before and say, "Hey, one, this is the plan, right? This is what's gonna happen." And
You should have known he wasn't gonna be a good king at that point.
you understand? So when
Hey, what do it?
Samuel gathered everybody, all the tribes and whatever, so he doing it officially. Where's Saul?
Hiding in the luggage.
You understand?
Hiding in the luggage.
So Saul was hiding, and then all of a sudden later on, he is this big champion calling shots, as they say. Yeah, right. Someone says. So there was a change apparently over time. You know, so that is something also.
Pride is so
Good
dangerous,
observation.
man.
Good
You know?
observation.
Pride is dangerous.
It's
creep
so
up.
flipping
It creep
dangerous.
up.
And we all yearn for it. Like, we gravitate to
And
it.
Samuel put him in this place,
Yeah.
because Samuel talk about it, right? When he say, you know, in one of these verses, one of these chapters here, where he, in essence, what you're saying is, you know, you was nothing just now. You know what I mean? And now, you know,
Now you feel there's something, now you're smelling yourself.
yeah.
And just a little side note, also, when I first read about this story, like, got an understanding of it, it shocked me when Samuel came and checked Saul, and Saul made all these excuses, and Samuel himself took the sword and killed Agag in front of him.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the man. I don't remember reading about Samuel going ham, but this takes it back to what you just said. God might tell you to go over there and handle that work. Samuel killed the dude right there in front of him. You know what I'm
Samuel's
saying?
been having to do tough stuff all the time. Like, he's the one that told Eli, like, yo, yeah, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
You and your son.
Yeah.
What did God tell you? What he has said was, you know, one other illustration that kind of makes sense of the king and the representative thing is when Joab and his brother go and kill Abner and ambush Abner.
Yeah.
David has to take action to show that they didn't do it on his behalf.
Right.
Yeah.
You said this blood on
He
it.
had to distinguish himself from that, and I feel like that was one of the things that God had to do with Saul. Saul is no longer acting for me. I have to distance myself from Saul because he's doing his own thing, just like Joab did his own thing. Joab is one who's acting on behalf of David. He's supposed to be acting on behalf of David, on the authority of David, because David is the boss. Anytime he goes rogue, it looked bad on David, and David had to tell everybody to sing the song and tell everybody to rip their clothes and walk behind the procession to show everybody that I didn't have anything to do with that. And I feel like God had to do the same thing with Saul and also with Moses.
One last point about David also speaks to his character is the fact that when he had opportunity to kill Saul on 2 separate occasions, he did not do it. And what was his reason? He was like, this is God's anointed. And far be it from me to put a hand on God's. That's how much his respect for God was. He's like, this dude is lunching, but God chose him. And even though he is lunching, I'm not going to touch him because God chose him. And then when the report, and that comes into our reading, when the report came to him that Saul was dead, it came from an Amalekite who ran back to David, gave him the report, and he was like, how in the world did you know about it? He was like, I'm the one that killed him because he asked me to do it. And then David was like, you killed one of the Lord's anointed. Execute him. And took him out. Took the Amalekite out. I was like, that type of respect for the Lord and who he chooses, that's loyalty. That's a loyal heart.
I would dare say that David allowed the Lord to take care of him. He didn't take care of to defend him.
Right.
Sure.
He defended others and he defended the Lord's name, but he allowed the Lord to defend him.
Well,
because it wasn't just Saul that he let take advantage of him, so to speak.
Right.
There was the other guy, Shimei, who was throwing stones at him.
Yeah, that's
him
right. While he was walking with his boys.
Right? And they were like, let's light him up.
Take
And he's
him out.
like, God will deal with that.
Yeah.
And then he even left dealing with it to Solomon to take care of.
Yeah.
And then the way the
But he
Bible...
had that mentality, and even though I don't read it a lot, but you see it in the Psalms, like the way he writes his Psalms. You know, he's always asking God to
Save me
take
from
care.
it, yeah,
well,
that's
save him, and then like go after them. Like,
Yeah, take them
take
out.
them out.
Avenge me. Don't leave me hanging.
Avenge me. Yeah.
And the only one time he was about to handle his own business is when Nabal disrespected him. That's when,
the ball.
That's shady.
and God had to send the
So his
wife.
wives, and he said, "Truly, you are sent by the Lord, because your wise words ain't come from you alone. You ain't the one talking."
But here's a logistic thought that from that story that caught my attention this time. It's not a big deal. It's not a spiritual thing. It's just a logistic story. The Bible says at once she packed 200 loaves of bread.
That's right. That's right. She brought it.
You just had 200 loaves of bread laying around that you could just pack.
Rich.
But they were also getting ready for some feast, right?
Yeah, they were having a feast.
He just had a feast.
Okay.
And he was drunk.
Okay.
So it could be
You're
that.
right, you're
But
right.
she
I
said,
missed that.
She said ahead of her.
Yeah.
She ain't come with it. She said the stuff that he needed ahead.
She was able to pull all that stuff together. I mean,
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out where they were living and what kind of lifestyle they were living. That you just have 200 loaves of bread.
Well, clearly they
you
don't
can pack
have-
up and,
yeah.
and send for something.
He was thinking he had money though.
Yeah, he was rich.
Yeah. So no, that was David.
See,
Oh no, man.
see. Kendrick, any other
I
thoughts?
might try it though.
Any other thoughts?
I might
on
try
the
that David life.
What? Killing people?
Just to see what happens.
Just he like
The Lord knows your heart.
I'm gonna
put that in you with that.
Exactly.
Let's go back to that question before we take something from Kendrick and Orlando. What does it say about God? I know we talked about a lot, but what does it say about?
His understanding is just so far beyond ours. We can't sit here and reason. We can't judge nobody because you don't know what the Lord is doing to save lost men and women. You just don't know. You can't judge. I mean, and I'll say this as testimony. There are some people I've come in contact with in other faiths who are following God and loving God the best way they know how. And if I had the mindset that I used to have before God did his marvelous work on me, I'd have looked at him in judgment. Nah, you wrong there, man. You don't know what you're doing. You headed for the wrong place. That would have all came up out of me. Or I would have even yearned to tell them that. But now, reading about brothers like David and how the myriad of people who he did a marvelous work with in the Bible, it's like you don't know what somebody else is doing with that's between God and them. Do like what David did. Worry about God protecting you. Worry about your relationship with the Lord, so that when you see him at the pearly gates, he says, "Welcome in, thou good and faithful servant," and he does not say, "Depart from me, thou work of iniquity. I know you not." That's what you need to worry about.
What does it say about God to you?
Same. Same.
All right, Orlando, what does it say about God to you?
And his ways aren't our ways, and his thoughts aren't our thoughts. He can't be searched out by man. I mean, I don't try to make what God do make sense. He said it. He did it. Whatever he did. Whatever.
Yeah, but what does it teach you about him? I guess that's what I'm asking.
David.
Yeah. What is the way that he related to David, in spite of what David is or was, tell you about God that's impactful to you about you?
Well, to make it personal, what it tells me is I don't have to worry about basically anything I've done up to this point in my life, because apparently God got a plan for me. If David could do all the stuff that he did and still be labeled a man after God's own heart, I ain't scratched the surface in life yet. You know what I'm saying? If God tells me to go get, it's gonna happen. And I kind of been geeking for it. You understand? But if he don't, then I gotta change and become a traditional whatever. He's working on me with that too. I mean, all right, basically, I ain't gonna get off on a little rant, but his ways ain't our ways. You know what I'm saying? And he do stuff on a whole nother level. And whether we got a full understanding of it or not, generally the outcome is what he planned for it to be.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying?
I got you. Kevin, what's it tell you about God?
You want something profound?
No,
Nothing.
not necessarily. That helped, but not.
He's simply complex.
I thought you said you weren't going to be
Yeah,
profound.
about to say. I know.
It's hard to understand. Like we've talked about it, but it's hard to understand how David can get away with all that stuff. But it's easy to understand, kind of going back to what Brad was saying, is because David wasn't concerned about anybody else but God. Like he was only his main objective was to give God glory and honor. that was it. If he can big God up, then that's all he needed. That's the only reason he existed from David's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so from the outside in, it's very complex. Like, how does that work? From David's perspective, it was simple. Like, this dude created me. Like, he created me. He anointed me to do this, so he's got me. And all I got to do was just give him honor and glory and worship. And he just recognized that authority. And that was it.
What do characters like David, Peter, Saul, and Nebuchadnezzar, I'm going to add Nebuchadnezzar in there, say to you about what it looks like to be a man of God?
It doesn't look like anything.
Man,
It's all...
You can't categorize
Yeah,
it.
it's all different.
You cannot categorize it.
All those dudes were different. But the one thing... I don't know about Saul. But the one thing they
I was talking about Saul who became Paul.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
That's all.
Okay.
The only thing they had in common was that, like, it was the recognition of who God is.
Yes.
That's
what
it.
I was about to say.
I don't know if there was anything else they had in common.
Because Nebuchadnezzar was just as vicious as David.
Yeah, but that was like he wasn't Israelite. Like he was supposed to be.
That's even worse,
Huh?
ain't it? I mean, because he was a Babylonian king.
But I'm saying, but even he was like he had a past. Like you can look at some dudes and be like, yeah, I mean, the way there's a lady that she had a rough life and stuff's happened, all this kind of stuff, and people are like, man, how can you do that? I'm looking at it like, yeah, but like look at the way she grew up. Like if anybody had a past to do all the masturbation, like she had a rough life. Like she had nothing. Like nothing was going her way. She had to fend for herself the entire time. She was abused. She was all like, yeah, like. So that's kind of like the whole Nebuchadnezzar. Like he wasn't ordained by God. He came up. Like this was his kingdom. This was him. He had no reason to acknowledge who God was. Yet he did.
Yes.
David and all these people grew up in the church.
Like Jephthah.
Yeah, within all that. It was supposed to look a certain way. That's all I'm saying.
I got you. Orlando, anything stood out to you from your readings this week?
Man, I ain't reading them.
Right. No worries.
No
worries.
But I'm gonna read this week though.
That's cool.
One thing about that, because I the perspectives. I notice. Well, I don't know the stories. I can't say. Apparently, I don't know the stories, but yeah, I'm gonna read this week.
All right, cool. Yeah. Kendrick?
Got to.
So this is more. I like just finding like weird things. That's why I like the whole Saul and thing. Just stuff that doesn't make sense to me. This is not even spiritual or anything like that.
We taking everything.
1 Samuel 13. When I read, so I have the special Bible that has like all four of them joints, like New International, NIV, KJV, New American Standard, Amplified. So I try to go through all of them.
You got 4 chapters right there.
Yeah, no, it's all
4 versions. Yeah.
So Saul was 30 years old when he became king. That's it in the New International version.
Really?
What verse?
1 Samuel 13. First verse. Saul was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned over Israel for 42 years. Amplified version, chapter 13. Saul was 40 years old when he began to reign. Is that a misprint? Is the way
You got a King James version?
King James says he was 30.
No, King James says
Saul reigned 1 year
when
he reigned 2 years over Israel.
Hey, I mean,
Sorry, New American Standard said it was 30. I was just curious.
They say all kind of thing.
So my Bible has a couple of notes right where it says 30. There's a little A that says a few late manuscripts of the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Bible by the Hebrews, of the Old Testament. That's what they have. The Greek Septuagint has 30. The Hebrew does not have 30. So when they translated the Hebrew into Greek, the Hebrew didn't have a number, the Septuagint did. So depends on which one of those things the translators were using to translate from.
Yeah, no, I was just curious about that. And then the other thing,
and then the Masoretic text that the King James was used to translate does not have 40 as well, which is why you didn't see it there. So what it teaches us, and this is one of the reasons why we do these conversations, because some things we learn about the Bible is that the Bible is a translation of another language or text of another language that had been preserved by copy and writing over time, and that got translated from one version to the other. And because you have all these hand copied things, you also have some of these minor scribal errors, or I wouldn't say errors, differences. And so depending on which work you're using, your translations may be slightly off. But what you'll notice is that they don't affect the story or the content that significantly for it to be meaningful in many of the instances.
And the thing about that is too, I've heard some people try to discredit the word because of those reasons you're telling right now. And my answer to that has been, it's like when I read, and that's why it's important, when you read this, you need to pray first. Because when you do that, then God can speak to you from his word and tell you exactly what you need to know. There have been times I read this thing, ain't got one thing from it, until I started praying prior. And then out of desperation and out of seriousness, like the word says, when you seek the Lord with your whole heart, he knows when you're searching for him with your whole heart. It's like, look, man, life is on my back. If you real, tell me something right now. And you go in here and the Lord will speak to you. He'll shoot a verse. That jump will jump up off the page at you. And it'll speak directly to your situation. You're like, whoa, this thing is real. And then not only that, you can read a chapter multiple times and get something different out of that same chapter each and every time you read it. Right. All based on what the Lord shows and reveals to you. Because this is his character revealed through the word.
Lauren had added a comment when we were asking about, we learn about God. She said, seek ye first the kingdom and all these things will be added unto me. Remain in God even when life happens, when I make mistakes. Just remain in him. Always come back to my first Lord. David's story tells me that God cherishes those who choose him and continue to choose him, not thinking that I am gone too far to be redeemed. Andre adds, our tendencies and inherited inclinations could never override God's will and plan and love for us.
I like that one.
Who was that?
Andre. I named Andre.
Yeah, who's it's a dude or
Andre, a guy.
Andre.
I read two comments one was from a girl and one was from a guy. The guy said our tendencies and inherited inclinations could never override God's will, plan, and love for us. That was from the guy, from Andre.
That's real.
Sorry, Cameron, did you have any other highlights?
I had a couple others. One we already covered. That was the one in Samuel, 1 Samuel, when it was talking about when they were asking for a king.
Okay.
And just the simple thing is like, why do I always have to, why is it easier for me to trust something that I see as opposed to unseen? And I thought that's one of the reasons why
Unpack that again. Go back, start again.
Why do I try to trust? I mean, trusting God, this unseen being, is sometimes very difficult. We're at least for me,
tactile.
I'm tactile. I gotta touch it. I gotta see it. I gotta work with it. And so, from that perspective, it makes it more difficult for me to trust someone I can't see. I know he's there, and it kind of goes back to the whole, David. I think we talked about it. I wasn't here last time, so the time before, just me really focusing over the past few weeks on being cognizant of asking God before I make moves.
Gotcha.
And so the thing was, it was. So I'm just saying that same passage. I think it was 1 Samuel 12, when he was going through, and Samuel was going through and talking to him about, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. This is why you shouldn't, this is why you need God and don't need a king. And he was kind of going through that whole thing. And that's one of the questions I said. It's like, be able to trust something, trust God who I can't see, as opposed to how the Israelites were just starving for something that they could.
He was up in the mountains. You know what I'm saying? And he had a recognition and an appreciation of God just from being in nature all the time. Seeing the mountains and the trees and how everything bloomed and how the seasons came and went.
Like,
He was like, who's controlling this?
Yeah.
Because it ain't us. I was here long before I'm here, and I'm sure after I go, it's going to still be here doing the same thing. But who's in control of that? It's just like you said, got to have some measure of faith or some recognition
that something's bigger.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but our program crashed and we had to reboot it. So we're back up, but we had to create a whole new link and all of that good stuff. So
you know who that was.
This thing is starting to make more and more sense as it doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy stuff you having, but
before you got in here, Cameron, I was just testifying to this brother about, you know, the doorways that the Lord is just opening up and how he's increasing territory. I read the verse. It's like, increase my territory. This sounds good when we sing it in songs. Yeah. When the Lord actually starts opening doors and increasing territory and allowing more opportunities for ministry and then adding to his force, I couldn't say my force or my ministry, but it's not mine. You know what I'm saying? He starts adding workers to the field, and you see it happening at such a rapid pace that you realize without his guidance, it's going to all crash and burn. So you just stay in his will, stay talking to him and ask him what in the world you're supposed to do next. When that stuff starts happening and the devil starts to see you losing more of yourself and leaning more upon the Lord, and he does all sorts of nonsense through the week to try to throw you off. Me and this brother have been attacked on a constant basis. We done rapped to each other about 2 or 3 times this week. And the devil's just been been busy. You know what I'm saying? But the crazy thing is like, just to testify, it's like the peace that surpasses all understanding. Once you just hand stuff over to the Lord, you ain't even bothered by it no more. You recognize it for what it is. Like for this session crashing, we having a deep discussion and revealing some stuff about the word that a lot of people could be buying into and listening to right now. And then not only that, the seeds that are being planted about what we're talking about could be spread to other people, because that's how the Holy Ghost works. I done seen him do it too many times and not believe it. And so for stuff like that to happen for a crash, ain't nothing but the enemy. And all we do is just sit and laugh at him. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep on doing this anyway.
Keep going. I have 2 more things I want to ask. You had a question about Jephthah a couple of weeks ago, and I just wanted to put it out there.
Go ahead, put it out. What was it?
So the story of Jephthah is the Nino Brown character who was the son of a prostitute who was running with a band of misfits up in the bush because his brothers kicked him out because they didn't want him to be a part of them, and he had some influence, so they kicked him out. But then they started getting oppressed by some people, so they call on their big bad brother who's the gangster to come and rescue them. So he comes back down, he sends messages to the people who interfering and say, why are you on my territory, why are you on my grounds, you're challenging my authority, because this is my spot, I run this block, End up having to go to fight with them, and the Spirit of the Lord comes down on him, and God gives him power and instructions to go and deal with the situation that he had in his thug life type approach to life. And he tells God, if you give me victory, the first thing that come out of my house, I'm going to sacrifice to you. He doesn't do. He comes back and his daughter comes out. And you had a question about that.
Why?
So go with the story. So what happens?
No, but basically my question is why God accepted that as a offering.
Did he kill her?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
He did.
She went away for a few months.
She asked him for 2 months to go and mourn on the hill or something.
Where is that?
Judges.
In Judges.
Yeah, I don't remember this story.
Yeah.
That's right. One of the judges had to be reminded. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Judges.
And he had to kill his daughter. And my question was,
Judges chapter 10 and
how when God
And 12.
asked, what's his name, Abraham to sacrifice his son, God didn't actually allow him to do it. But you made the point that the difference was.
Hold on.
One was
Let
a
him
boy,
answer
one
the
was a girl.
question.
All right.
One was a boy, one was a girl.
Nah.
According to what you just said, you said Jephthah.
Yeah,
Jephthah,
Jephthah.
that's
He,
right.
God didn't ask him to sacrifice his daughter. He made the decision that if you give me this victory, then the first person to come out of my house, I'm gonna give to you, or sacrifice, or kill. whatever.
Yes, that is that is what we came to after. But initially, that wasn't what I was thinking. I was like, how come? You know, why God didn't
self.
Yeah, why God didn't say whatever?
Never
You
do
don't
that.
really need. You know,
This thing.
Oh,
you don't really need to.
hold on. Are we not gonna account for her response to her father?
Yeah, she was willing.
Yeah,
She was willing.
maybe that has to play a part into it.
I was
'cause I'm-
willing too.
Yes.
Yeah, but I want to know how it transpired. What it did? They just put her on a.
I'm not
Wait,
familiar
hold
with
it.
the story.
I don't know that it really makes a difference.
You know, because that's blood, and remember, God,
But-
he don't sanction human sacrifices.
I don't know. I might have to take the L on that one.
Yeah.
My daughter,
He does.
Yeah.
Addison. I might have to take the L on that one.
What's interesting is that Hebrews 11 lists Jephthah as one of the people in the halls of.
Oh, does it? Never paid attention.
Oh, he's in there.
We could read it now. Hebrews chapter 11.
The Hall of Fame.
Oh, look, I never.
Does it list her?
No, it doesn't list. You stupid.
Like,
It's not that
She needs
list.
to be. She can't get listed.
Hebrews chapter 11 verse 32. And what more shall I say? I don't have the time to tell about Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, about David and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, gained what was promised, who shut the lions' mouths, quenched the fury out of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies. So yeah, Jephthah is listed there. Even
But he was an honorable man, because when he said it and it hurt him, he still did it.
Yeah.
That is the hard part, you know what I mean? To actually execute it, because you tell God they're gonna do it.
That's what
Right?
the word meant something.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So
Word
he
was
say
power.
you had to go.
which goes back to the commonality between all of these guys. Now, one of the things we have to keep in mind about judges is that in the time of the judges, the people were far away from God and didn't know or didn't really understand God. And so they had these warped understandings of what God was and who God was.
You say the people. God's people, people in general.
God's people.
God's people.
Because at the time of the judges, they didn't actually do what they were supposed to do and kill out all the people.
Yeah, this was right after they
So
got
they
in.
started intermarrying with them,
Yeah.
and they started having all these blended ideas.
God
You go back to how
Judges.
Gideon was. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
You think about it. God told these people, and maybe that's why David was a man after God's own heart. God told the people, go kill all of them.
Yep.
And they couldn't do it. I don't know if it's that they just didn't do it. Maybe they couldn't do it. Maybe they ain't had
A little bit
a little bit of both. I mean, you saw the intimidation that
They were scared they saw some giants.
Yeah, like I mean, you go back. There were a lot of times when that happened. And then there was a lot of times where, you know, the Israelites, they were scary from the very beginning when they left Egypt.
Yeah.
You know, so they always had that scared mentality.
That's a tough
God-
job to be
God
told, man. Go
chooses.
kill everybody, man. Women, children, kids, old
And-
people. Kill everybody. Get
I
them
was
all
thinking
out
about that
the
this morning. Like, yo, like,
Because
way. He meant that.
the woman will lead you astray. I
They
just
always do.
shut up.
Blame Egyptian women. Egyptian women. What they, bro?
Philistine women.
Philistines, man.
Philistine women. That's what they say.
So yeah, so Jephthah had a warped concept.
I mean, but
Oh,
that
God.
goes with Saul too. I mean, with Saul to Paul. When there was 11 disciples left, and Peter, they chose Matthias, but God was like, nah, Islam, I need somebody. I'm gonna send out to them Gentiles who's gonna handle this work. I'm gonna reveal myself to him, knock him off his horse, blind him for 3 days. I'm gonna talk to him. He's gonna realize, oh, I recognize you are God. So now I'm gonna go hard in this direction and talk to the barbarians, talk to the Romans, talk to the Greeks, and be owed a debt to tell y'all about this gospel. Why am I owed a debt? Because I done did all this stuff, and the Lord still messes with me, so I owe it to y'all.
but he
to
did
tell
all
the
that
gospel.
thinking that he was doing it for God. Like
That's right. He was wrong.
He was wrong, but he thought he was
right. He thought he was right.
So he was like, yo, so if
That's the point I wanted to make. That's exactly the point I wanted to make about Jephthah. Why? The point that you made. Even though it was a hard thing for him to do, he was willing to do it because he made this. In his mind, he made this commitment to God. Imagine if he had the right understanding of God, and he had that kind of level of respect for God and commitment. The kinds of things he would have done for God.
That's why God can use dudes with game more than he can. I mean, he flips them around. It's the same gift of Gab, but he's just doing it for the right purpose.
Man.
It takes a different type of person too. You said Gab or game?
Both. I mean, just the gift of Gab. Like there are dudes that will go in there and they'll sell you a brick. They'll sell you whatever. Like they'll just sell you, right? It's just what they're doing.
Right.
So all guys gotta do is flip that. I need you to sell me. I need you to talk to people the same way you're doing here. Like I don't have a problem with what you're talking about. I mean, how you're talking. I got a problem with what you're doing. I just need you to flip that, do the same thing, but do it for me, and it changes the entire.
It's true.
That's how David was. He was like, just kill for me.
A lot of them jokers.
Like, don't kill for you.
Yeah,
just kill for me.
What about your man Jehu?
Oh boy.
Now, I don't. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what tribe he was from. His story. I opened my Bible and I just saw
Not
his
the
story.
right one.
But he told somebody, said, "Let me show you how zealous I am for God." And he said, "Jump in the chariot with me." And he went and started crushing people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he got all the prophets of Baal together, a couple of occasions, man, to make sure it was all of them in there. And he crushed them all. He said, "No, if anybody get out of here, then you got to go." But so, who was he? What was he?
He was an instrument in the hand of God.
He was a necessary.
See, and I came to understand it. I didn't see him. He just popped on the scene. He popped off the scene.
Right.
A lot of people like that. That God just puts in position for the sole purpose of just stirring everything up and then going on about their business. Yeah, but that's another show.
But you have to be submitted to him to do what he said and not what you think.
You wouldn't have known. I mean, how would you have known that man had any type of relationship with the Lord except for what he said?
That's true.
And all he's doing was talking about God and killing.
But does God require everybody else to understand?
I'm not saying.
And that's the big thing.
He was talking about God and running around crushing the prophets of Baal. Mm-hmm. I'm zealous for God. Yeah, I roll with God. I mean, but he wasn't.
Actually, in the story, he gets anointed as king. A prophet comes and anoints him as king. You have to double back and see it, but he gets anointed as king.
I believe you.
I'm
not gonna.
But that's a good point. I mean, how many times do we judge people based upon what we know about them, what we see about them? Mm-hmm. Not even what we know, what we see, what we hear somebody else say about whatever. And it kind of goes back like it's not our place to judge. It's not our place to sit in judgment and to worry about what they're saying. Like that's if God set this person up for this particular thing, that could be the only thing that they're called to do.
That's another good point.
Judge not, lest you be judged.
That's another good point.
When that joke said that,
thing.
Live on that live, huh?
Yeah. When it says I'm gonna be met with the same type of judgment I judge with somebody else, it's like I'm not even gonna worry about you, dude. You do your thing with the Lord. As long as you roll with the Lord, stay with him. Cause I look at it, the Jehu thing. I look at it as God was just fed up. Them jokers had a temple to Baal in the nation's capital. You talking about? All right, we got the temple of the living God right here, but then a stone's throw down the block. We got the temple to Baal, and then not only that, the king at that time went so hard as to set up idols and booths to worship Baal within the temple of the Lord. Now that when I read that, I couldn't wrap my mind. That's like going in church and seeing satanic idols and shrines in the church.
Mm-hmm. But it's a slow fade, to get to that point. You don't get to that point overnight.
You
don't. It's creeping compromise
in the form of human being.
I just don't know how it. I can't imagine how it gets there though. I can't imagine. I don't know the board that approved that.
The church board that approved. I don't know. God had it. That's why he was like, get them all in there and then ask the question, who is of Baal? They was like, all Baal.
Let's use Solomon as an example, right? Mm-hmm. Solomon was making political alliances. So he was marrying all the people and wives and bringing them in happy wife, happy life.
But not the temple. That's my only thing.
But I'm saying
the temple.
Is a
your house. I get like it's your wife, and he's got all these wives.
Mm-hmm.
Like just do you in that closet. Don't.
So how about you trying to be accommodating to all the various beliefs in your community? And you trying to bring them all together.
All in the temple.
You know, we all worship together. You worship your God, I worship my God, all in the place of God. You know, those kinds of logics are what lead to those kinds of things.
I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that too.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
But see that's the darkness that the Lord will allow your mind to go into once you keep straying away from Him. Because it said He gives you up to these desires. You keep resisting. He's like, I will give you up to that.
Which is what Saul ended up.
Yeah.
Because when he stopped hearing from God, or he
went to the witch.
That's a scary thing.
That is, man.
That's a scary thing right there. And he still thought he was doing.
Because he went to seek a prophet. He went to seek a word from a witch, from a dead prophet, to bring up Samuel.
Why in the Bible it keeps saying an evil spirit from the Lord? Is that a translation issue?
Oh, that
lion spirit.
A lion spirit.
Yeah. Or
Lion
an evil spirit.
No,
for example,
you talking about
Saul.
the evil spirit when he was.
Saul
would get into it. An evil spirit would come upon him.
Is that a translation issue?
not so much.
I just kept thinking of Pharaoh.
Not so much as a translation issue, more than as a perspective issue. If you believe that God is the writer, or if the writer is writing from the perspective that everything that happens, God is ultimately responsible for.
That's right.
Then, even though may not necessarily send the spirit,
He allowed it.
He allowed
So
it.
it's-
So in other words, that spirit was knocking on the door, and the only thing that's keeping it from going forward is God.
right.
And then God said, "You know what? I will go ahead."
Man, look, that happened. Something like that happened to me. What's the day? Friday, Wednesday. Man, changing the tire on my trailer. Thought I had it good, you know what I'm saying? I had to change the leaf spring. Realized I put it on backwards. Everything was going wrong. You know what I'm saying? Got the tire on there, realized the tire had a previous hole in it. I put my 2 mowers on there, it was too much weight. Tire started losing air. So I go over to the little shed, a TA on the backside, put some air in the tire, halfway plug it, don't do it right. The Holy Spirit was like, you don't have any glue, put 2 plugs in there and then cut it off. I didn't do it. I'm like, man, I'm good. I'm just going over to Eastern Avenue. I'll be back up here, you know, tires holding up good. He told me to take all the tools with me that I used to change the tire. I wouldn't have had anything with me. I'm good, you know, I've got my tire on, I got my leaf spring, I took all the tools with me. My man was like, man, this didn't happen to you while you was out there on the road. I was like, yeah, that's true. It would have been bad if it happened out 15, 20 minutes later.
Well,
Maybe 30.
Wow.
About to getting on 295 on Kenilworth Avenue to jump on Eastern Avenue. I was right there.
Almost reached.
Trailer tire went flat.
Wow.
All I could think about all I could think was thank you, Lord, for telling me to bring the tools with me that I needed. Thank you for having my man say it could have happened on the road, because when he said that and I thought about it, I think God knew it. Because I'm like, man, why would you say something like that? You're going to go talk up some more. You know how people get to thinking like that, man, you wouldn't have said nothing, it wouldn't have happened. I thanked him the next day. You know what I'm saying? When I said, maybe 2 days later, when I seen it, I was like, Joe, you know what? If you wouldn't have said that, I might not have been of a mind to be that at peace when it happened.
Right.
But I envisioned God just telling the devil, like, you know what? Go ahead and flatten the tire. He ain't gonna get mad. You know what I'm saying? He's like, man, now he gonna be pissed. He gonna be mad as mud if I flatten the tire right now. He's like, go ahead and flatten the tire. Man, I'm telling you, man, I stayed in the mirror looking at the tires, riding good. I'm bouncing, hitting bumps. As soon as I started telling the Lord, thank you for being with me throughout the week, help me fix the brakes and look at the trailer started shaking like the plug was stuck on the side of the tire. You know what I'm saying? It's like it was just sitting there looking at me like, you should have put glue on me. Or cut me. I'm like, yeah. But I pulled straight off. I didn't mess the tire up. I knew the tire was good. The Holy Spirit was like, tire good. Just jack it up. But the whole time I'm out there, man, you know, it's hot. It's hot. Ain't never to make no. You get the well. The fact that I never. I want to take it off, put it back on, trying to plug it, finding stuff to stick in the tire. Finally, Shawty came, you know what I'm saying, with the advance, got me my tire repair kit. Got the joint right, it's holding up even now. But like Brad was saying, man, this whole week, last week, but because of stuff like this, that's why the devil attacking. He been attacking me since I was a kid. So it's like now I kind of laugh at him. I told him, I did some cussing, but it was only at him. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't in general. I try to lean on Slim as often as I can. Just let him know you're a punk. Keep it in his ear. Because, I mean, the stuff that we about to do, Joe, God about to do things just like he did with David, man. It's scary to me because if I commit fully like he tell me to, man. Joe, Jehu what?
Jehu what?
Jehu what?
Talking about Orlando the same way, right?
Man, come on, man. Our story is going to be written.
Yeah, man.
Oh, real quick. Mark 9, verse 1, right? I want that. That did jump out at me. You asked me if anything jump out. I wanted to specifically ask you.
Mark 9, verse 1.
Mark 9, verse 1. Because I've been told something. Like, yeah, I've been told something.
Can you remember the answer?
Oh my God.
Remember the answer to this question that we settled on? I don't know if Orlando it'll settle him, but what are your thoughts on Mark chapter 9, verse 1? And he said to them, truly I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the kingdom of God has come with power.
I don't remember where we ended up at.
I know what it could literally mean.
But we've tackled this a couple different times.
Only in the interest of time. I'm going to play with it too long.
No, man. Play with it, man.
Vanessa going to give me a sign a little bit and it's 10 to 10.
She gonna come and pull you off?
She gonna hit me.
Okay, whatever. I'm sorry. I'm getting that's marriage. That's my fault. That's my fault.
No.
I'm sorry, Vanessa.
So, the last time we answered this question, one idea that was given to us was that one idea, and it's not necessarily the answer, and it was just an idea that was presented, was that John, the Revelator, was standing here. And when he was given a vision about, in Revelation, he was able to see the kingdom of God
Yes.
come in power. However, Mark makes that statement and then proceeds to talk about the transfiguration. So while that is one plausible idea, the guy who's writing the story is trying to use the transfiguration to make the point.
Of seeing the kingdom come with power.
Yes. But you have to ask yourself, what does that term mean, or what did Mark understand that term to mean, why he would make this connection?
But Christ was telling people that the kingdom of heaven was at hand.
Right. What does that mean?
What does it mean?
So actually, what we did not talk about then, and that now I'm starting to think about now, is that there's several references when you're coming through the Gospels where the author was like, the kingdom of God is this, the kingdom of heaven is this, and he goes into like the kingdom of heaven is like this.
It's likened to, yeah.
And so the question is,
What
is the kingdom of heaven? And when they're giving the parables, and Jesus is making these statements, he said it in the Beatitudes, he's talking about it there, he's talking about some other places. The kingdom of heaven is like this, or not the Beatitudes, but in that chapter.
I see what you mean. So we're trying to see if this is the context, if he's speaking literally or not.
Or if he's speaking about his understanding of what the kingdom of heaven is.
Right.
Because Mark may have had an understanding of the kingdom of heaven.
This is what he's saying Jesus said.
Right. Mark's understanding of what Jesus said is what I'm talking about. Maybe different from what
Jesus said.
No, I wasn't going to say that.
Okay.
I was going to say we, as church people, from whatever church people, have been presented an idea of the kingdom of heaven that it may not be what Jesus is talking about.
Jesus' kingdom of heaven, and I'm trying to remember if there was ever a time, most of the time was not a physical place.
Correct.
It was a mentality.
Correct.
I'm trying to think if there was a time when we actually thought that it was a physical place, where he referenced a physical place. But
Yeah,
most of the
that's what I
time he was talking about a mentality.
Right.
And when you break this, you look at it through those lenses.
When Jesus gets transfigured,
Yes.
to be to show that he's from this other place where this mentality is,
It reigns.
where he reigns
Right.
over that mentality, that would translate to
That would fit what he's talking about.
fit what he's talking about.
Yeah,
Yes.
transfiguration. Okay. I never thought about it like that before.
But I'm just saying that when I was growing up, and I would just speak for me, when I was growing up, Kingdom of Heaven was when we go to heaven.
A place, yeah.
You know, that third heaven where God reigns and his throne is, and there's the streets of gold, and, you know, that's the kingdom. But now that I'm a little bit older and reading this thing for myself, I'm coming to understand that the kingdom of heaven is not...
That's interesting.
It's not limited to that.
What is a kingdom?
The word kingdom is...
Because the kingdom is more than just a castle, right?
Is a challenging translation because of our English understanding of the word. But the word is actually better translated the reign of heaven. The reign.
Reign.
R-E-I-G.
I mean, I'm talking about like the literal kingdom. Like a king on earth, their kingdom consists of whatever land they rule, right?
Correct.
So heaven
or
is
whatever people they rule as
right,
well.
or whatever people. So the kingdom of heaven, because you guys liken it to a lot of different stuff, though.
Because when you go back to Nebuchadnezzar and like all these guys back then, they ruled people.
Mm-hmm.
They occupied people, and then whatever land those people were on, they would automatically transfer. But it wasn't necessarily the land that they wanted; it was the people. They wanted people.
And they were the people.
And the people occupied the land, so
they were citizens of this kingdom.
Yes,
subject to the rules of the kingdom, subject to the governance of the kingdom. So when the kingdom of heaven is at hand, he's ushering in this
new rule,
this new management,
new ruling, I guess, new management.
Yeah. So when you go to a king, yes, there's a territory, right? But his main objective is to make sure that you, the people, acknowledge him as king. If I leave there and go somewhere else, it's like
what was
it's
Christ really telling me?
It's like coming to America when sorry, it's like coming to America when he goes to the game, and the dude gives him in the bathroom, and he was like, he acknowledged him, the king of Zamunda, like he was like, you're from Zamunda, and he gave him homage. This dude's in New York. But he paid homage to the fact that this dude was the prince of Zamunda. He wasn't in Zamunda.
Right.
He's in New York, but he paid homage to him. That was his kingdom.
Now, with that being said,
that was Holy Spirit driven. God created coming to America
for that decision right there.
But like what he just said though, when Christ came to this earth, just like when what's the name a king went to New York,
yes,
you know what I'm saying, and the people, just that dude in New York recognized him as being the prince of Zamunda. I mean, you think about it, Christ was a representative. He's God, you know what I'm saying, but as a representative of heaven, he's basically letting the people know, look, man, this is what is in front of you right here. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. And everything he was talking about, he likened the kingdom of heaven, he was basically talking about himself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he was speaking to his characteristics, or his father.
Or the mentality of the people in the kingdom.
Or the kingdom of heaven.
That's
how they carry things. And it's like, it's at hand. It's at hand. It's right here. See, like you made a good point, but we don't really know what was said. This is just how it was translated. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's why I would love to find, what in books? Where it break down the Greek, you know, a pastor be talking about the concordance, Strong's concordance or something like that. I've looked at one of them. I have no clue.
There's a free tool online called King James Bible Dictionary, where if you enter a text, you just go to the website and there's a search bar and you just enter the text. Like, let's say Mark 9:1. It will bring out all the words in the text, the English words in order, or how they're written, and then the Greek word that was translated and the meaning, and you can click on
and the meaning of the Greek word.
Yeah.
It says free.
Free.
It's called what?
KingJamesBibleDictionary.com.
KingJamesBibleDictionary.com.
So that's a free tool that you could use to do that.
King James Bible Dictionary.
That's one of them. There's several others I can send them to you, but that's
you got my number?
I do. I think I'm
send it
send
here.
it to you. I'm gonna send you some of the others as well. But since Jesus' message was to preach the kingdom, that's what he was doing. John was doing that, and then Jesus took over. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That was his message. That was the message that Jesus was preaching. It's important to understand that, so that you can understand all that Jesus is doing.
That right there.
Because if you don't understand that, then you thinking heaven.
Yeah, it's coming out.
What disciples goes back to what we talked about. Judas, Peter, James, John. They hear kingdom of heaven at hand. They're like kingdom.
They're thinking Jerusalem.
Like he's setting up his own physical kingdom, castle.
Misunderstood.
Right.
He's not talking about that. He's talking about mentality, and you hit it. Like, he's talking about his traits, who he is. The kingdom of heaven is like.
That's crazy.
And so when
And they was with it. They was with the kingdom of heaven
That's what-
the whole time. They didn't perceive it.
No, it's right.
didn't
Like,
perceive
Peter was
it.
like, yo, you need an army. Like, you need somebody to fight for you. Dude was like, you need.
James
you
and
need
John,
muscle.
James and John's mom come and say, "Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you put one of
you
my
put my
sons
son
on
on
the
there?"
right and one on the left?" You know, because Jesus getting ready to go to Jerusalem, and
Right.
so it's about to happen. It's
And look,
that time.
and look at their perspective. Like,
They didn't know what he was. They didn't know what he was.
Well, they're
about.
occupied.
Right.
They're occupied by Rome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, they're looking at.
They looked for liberation.
Yeah.
That's what they were looking for, man. They did not like it.
He did.
That's what they were expecting. Even the people were expecting it, which is why the people got excited when he started riding in on the donkey. He was like, "Whoa, here it comes! Here it comes!"
Which is why the Pharisees got upset, and the Sadducees, because they were like, "Yo, like if he sets up a new kingdom, like
You know, the Romans gonna get upset.
they're gonna be upset, but we also gonna like we can't
They're
fit
gonna
into
be
that
out of
news.
jobs.
Yeah, we
They ain't gonna have no job. No
Like-
more. Where you gonna get that money?
they gonna get that money.
Lose my prestige and my position.
Yeah,
This is crazy how you can talk about this book and it comes to life as you're talking about it. Because the other stuff is not new for real, but I mean you don't think about it all the same way unless you get some different perspectives on it though.
and you just read it like you read it for the 5th time, and you something different comes out. You read it for the 10th time. You're like, man, how did I miss the previous 10 times?
That's been happening like all this shit.
And that's what we try to do with Water for the Thirsty. And one of the other things we try to do with Water for the Thirsty as we close up is we don't want to just have good conversation and walk away saying, hey, we talked good. We want to make sure everybody leaves with something that was meaningful to them and impactful to them about who God is, who they are, and how they can be more like Him. So we're going to go around and, I'm going to start with Kenrick because he knows the drill. What's one thing that you were leaving from this conversation and going home with that, your one takeaway?
David,
What about it?
just like I want to strive for that relationship with God, like, and not like relationship like people like say, what relationship with God, like really understand and work on acknowledging God in everything that I do. And kind of like, I like what Brad said. It was like just allowing Him to take care of me, like acknowledging Him to that level. Like, Lord, just handle this. Just take care of this. It is constantly communicating with Him on that level, and not so much worrying about my day to day.
I got you. Orlando, of all the things we talked about, what's one thing you're going home with? And if you're online, those of you who are online watching, please share your takeaways because it's helpful when you articulate them to make them meaningful and lasting. So please, in the chat room, just share your takeaways.
Well, my takeaway, if I had to pick one thing, it's because God picked you initially, don't mean you're going to stay in that position. I didn't know God picked Saul. I thought the people picked him. That was a misconception on my part, but God put him in position and He removed him. Making it personal, I mean, based on like all the stuff we've been studying, He's showing me flat out, man, if I don't stop playing, all them chances, my man hit me out the blue, like you need to stop playing with God's grace, which is aggressive forgiveness. I mean, you like to think, David did all this, David did all that. You tell the man, the guys on Hot Slim, David ain't know what we know. You know what I'm saying? Basically, my takeaway is, Joe, I need to stop playing.
I got you.
I get removed from this position.
You know what's a funny thing about Saul? Saul remained king for the whole rest of his life. While he was rejected as king in terms of his line, he was not dethroned as king. And for 40 years, he had chances to do better and be better.
Huh?
While Saul was rejected as king in terms of his line, succession of his line, he was never dethroned as king. He remained king for his entire life.
But he was never,
So, he always, as long as he was alive, he had a chance to do better and be better. That only changed when he died.
I got you.
So God didn't take, he took away the line from him, but he didn't take away the kingdom from him.
I got you. It hit right where it was supposed to hit.
Right?
Oh man, my takeaway is we can't search the mind of the Lord and just let him do whatever he wants. And the reason why I say that, what gave the strongest evidence to that is just hitting me right now. I mean, we talk about David, the guy he was, the characteristics, why he was allowed, why he got away with all this, and yet God in his infinite knowledge knew that this brother was going to write the Psalms, which is currently the book that I'm in right now as I'm reading through this thing for yet another time. And as I'm reading through the Psalms, after having already read the Chronicles and Samuel and the many things of David, I can see why he wrote these words. Because at first, I'm going to be real with y'all, first time I came to the Psalms, I did too many books. I'm about to read through 140, 150 some of these. I'm just skip the Proverbs. Because Proverbs got knowledge. You know, it came from Solomon. Solomon was wise, yeah. Solomon just, no, I'm serious, bro. I had the same mindset. I was like, all these songs and flowery words. I'm like, but now as I'm reading them, and I see the context, and I see what he went through, I was like, the Lord knew David was going to write this stuff, and he had it in this book. It's a part of the 66. So I'm just like, God in his infinite knowledge, yeah. I chose a little ruddy boy who was bottom of the litter, who liked to go hard, was bloodthirsty, do a little bit of philandering and premeditated murder, but yet his heart was loyal to me. So I'm going to go ahead and keep him because my son's going to come from his line, and then he's going to have another son who's going to build my temple, and then later on he's going to pen a whole bunch of psalms that people are going to use for inspiration way down the line. Yeah. I don't know the mind of the Lord, but I appreciate him.
Right. And then,
For me is to be humble and allow the Lord to use you. That is my takeaway from that. That is the only way to go forward. That is which part all the power lies. For me, that is my takeaway. You know, you have to be humble, state our minds so that the Lord could use you.
right. I ain't gonna lie to you, Orlando. The Saul story always scares me because I'm afraid that, you know, that could be me. But today, our conversation about David, and particularly Brad's observation about the fact that when he was confronted with his wrong, the posture he adopted kind of gave me a little bit more peace and comfort. You know, and then the way that we describe him and Jephthah and Nebuchadnezzar, it also helped me realize that, you know, it doesn't have to look like any particular thing to be used by God, except to be devoted, committed, submitted to him. I mean, it was a reminder, but, you know, and the fact that Saul didn't lose his kingdom until he died means that as long as I'm alive, there's a chance. So that's kind of my takeaway, you know, for me. You know, as long as I'm alive, there's a chance. Can't wait till you know, because once I die, then that's it. I mean, I ain't gonna waste the time, but I have to take advantage of the time that I've been given. I think that verse about the from Samuel that I shared at first, do not be afraid, Samuel replied, you have done all this evil, yet do not turn away from the Lord, but serve him with all your heart. That's my takeaway. Don't turn after useless idols. They can do you no good, nor they can rescue you because they are useless. That's where I am. Gerald shared in the chat and he said, I like the discussion of David and Saul. It was interesting and brought out things I already thought. God gave them a king, though they wanted, and then gave them a king that would be. God gave them a king they thought they wanted, and then gave them a king that would be a good example of the King of Kings to come. And Lorraine said, remain in God with all the options, choices, and distractions out there. They are there to get you to choose more than any. They are there to get you to choose you more than anything else, which in essence is still not you choosing God, or the distractions are meant to get you to choose you, not God. Okay. There will always be an emergency or circumstance where you can justify doing opposite of what God says. But I still need to choose him, and he will take care of whatever situation I'm in. That's powerful.
That is.
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Laurie.
You have some on the Water for the Thirsty side.
Oh, okay, there's another one. Sorry. Just says, my life being such Bible story that I can live by and people can see God. Yeah, that's his takeaway. My life being a Bible story that people can live by. Psalms is a strong learning device to show God completely. You hear that, Kendrick?
What's that?
Psalms is a strong learning device to show God completely.
Yeah.
That's his takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for being an inspiration to Kendrick. I'd like to give him grief. Thank you guys for your participation in the conversation, for your insights and all of that. I hope this encouraged you to continue on in the word and to encourage other people and to appreciate God's love and his sacrifice for us and help others to come to a knowledge of that. We are on every first and third Friday at 8 p.m. at live.waterforthethirsty.com and on Facebook Live. We also have forums on Facebook and Instagram for in the week. You can share thoughts, ideas, conversations the same way. You can join our group and those kinds of things. If you don't already have a copy of the reading plan, we have hard copies that you can get if you email me at info@waterforthethirsty.com, info@waterforthethirsty.com, or if you have a mobile phone, you can get it in the Google Play Store or the iOS Store. We have an app where you can download the reading plan and read with us. We just want to encourage you to get to know Jesus better, to understand his love for you, and to see who you are like in a mirror so that you can position yourself to be more like him. Orlando, would you pray for us to close?
Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, first of all, thank you for the Sabbath. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to rest from our stress-filled weeks. Thank you for this water for the thirsty. Thank you for your word. Thank you for individuals who have a desire to fully understand you and what it is that you have for us to learn from the scriptures. I ask that you be with the individuals who are online, anybody tuning in. Allow what you have for them to find a lodging place in their hearts and in their minds. Thank you for my brother Jared, Kendrick, Brad, my other brother here whose name slipped my mind. Lord, you know his name, knowing you know him personally. As you forgive us for our sins, when we leave here, give us traveling mercies. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to just be in your presence. Again, forgive us for our sins and save us when you come. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Again, thank you, Rondell, Brad, and Orlando for coming. Thank you guys for joining us in the conversation in the room. Drink up.
Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink.